All right, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Greg Gilligan. I'm the Communications Director here at RVA 757 Connects. Welcome to our next Innovation Spotlight series. Today, our program is about boosting computer science education. It's an interesting topic that we will have some fun with two of our guest speakers today. I just want to go over quickly the agenda. I'm going to give you an update on what's happening with RVA 757 Connects. We'll dive into the computer science programs that are here in Virginia that are helping to expand our tech talent. We'll leave some room for some question and answer, and then we'll talk about what's next, including what's our next Innovation Spotlight is for April. Two things, reminder that we are recording this session, and we will post these recordings eventually to our website as well as to our YouTube channel. I'll give you some more details about that. And then also, if you have any questions, put them in the chat feature and we will try to answer those questions towards the end of the program. I always like to let people know that RVA 757 Connects is a nonprofit organization, so we rely on donations. And we have numerous corporate supporters, as you can see from this slide, and we thank them all for their support in promoting our organization. Let me give you a little bit of an update on what's happening at RVA 757 Connects. We like to use the mantra that we are convening, connecting, and collaborating. And that we're also bringing the power of all of that to improve the economic success and quality of life for everybody here in the Richmond region, as well as down in the Hampton Roads region, the 757 region. We are a network of leaders representing businesses, community, and higher education. We are advancing the Richmond to Hampton Roads mega region concept as the I-64 Innovation Corridor. We have a number of pursuits, priorities that we are pursuing. As you can see, one of them is to help spearhead the efforts to make the Richmond Hampton Roads mega region designated as a global internet hub. But we need a strategic plan in order to do that, and we're in the process of doing that. We started the planning process last year, and as you can see, we created a steering committee. The steering committee work should be completed sometime in the next month or so. We've hired two consultants to help formulate some action key plans. We also are waiting for some input on some studies, such as one that VDP is going to be doing, as well as some insights from SIR and George Mason University on the ROI on new jobs. So the idea is that we're all working together to try to come up with a strategic plan. The steering committee met yesterday, in fact, at the CarMax Innovation Center there on West Broad Street in Richmond, next to the Sauer Center, and we had a great 3-hour meeting. It was very long, but it was very intense. We went through a lot of information, a lot of suggestions, a lot of ways that we can put into our strategic plan. We also met in January, I should say, since now we're in March, at the Meta Data Center there in Eastern Henrico County. And we took a tour right before that point, before we had our meeting, to give a sense of what that data center looks like. We also created a website, globalinternethub.org or .com, whichever you prefer. When you can see our progress, you can see more information about what a global internet hub is, and look for different research information on there as well. So we are on our way of becoming a global internet hub. Our journey really started more than a decade ago when Hurricane Sandy in 2012 caused so much destruction to the New York coastline that prompted the development of a third East Coast landing site for subsea cables. In 2018, the Maria cable was the first one that came with ultra high speed fiber optic cable from Spain to Virginia Beach. And then more came after that. Right now there are 3 subsea cables coming into Virginia Beach, and they go right up to Eastern Henrico County and land at 2 data centers up there. And I'll give you more information about that. There's a possibility for a fourth cable, coming in at the first landing station. And there are permits for 4 more possibilities of subsea cables coming in at a second landing station there in Virginia Beach. As I mentioned, those subsea cables then come up basically Interstate 1664 right to eastern Henrico County, where Facebook has its data center. They've spent more than $1 billion in a 2 million square foot data center. The first phase that opened up in 2020, and the second phase is in the process of opening up right now. Next door is the QTS data center, and that's the world's 4th largest data center, and it's actually expanding right now to more than double the size of that particular data center. It's also home for DECIC, which is a data central neutral internet exchange point here in Richmond. And that's part of the DECIC network, which is a German technology company. They've established 3 locations in the Richmond area, 2 in Henrico and 1 in Hannah for these exchange point locations. And DECIC actually operates exchange points in other major markets in the United States, but only 4 other: New York, Chicago, Dallas, and Phoenix. So we're one of 5 in the US. So there are many reasons why we need to have a robust and digital infrastructure, such as the Global Internet Hub, for the mega region between Richmond and Hampton Roads. One, because it supports existing jobs. If you just look at the data center industry itself, in Virginia, it supports more than 13,000 people, and directly and indirectly, it supports more than 45,000 people. Also, a global internet hub and strong internet service provides faster, more reliable service, and it has competitive advantages as well. It provides additional local revenue sources in terms of how much these data centers produce for tax purposes. For every dollar in accounting expenditures data centers cause, it generates more than that in local tax revenue for various localities. Look at what happened up in Loudoun County and Prince William County. And data centers, there's a return on the investment. The report from CBRE indicates that having one data center probably equals to about the creation of a corporate headquarters with about 1,700 jobs, because the amount of infrastructure and the types of local tax revenue that it produces. Having a strong internet supports smart city development, improving transportation, healthcare, and government services. And this includes the coming of the autonomous vehicle. We need to have those. We need to have the fastest and latest services here. And it supports Internet of all things. So when you think about your refrigerator, how it lets you know if you need to order some more eggs, or your milk has gone sour because it's outdated. Those are things that are all supported through the internet. And it helps serve underserved neighborhoods as well with things like fiber optic rings. And it also helps to future-proof the communities of tomorrow, providing the idea that all of this will drive winning cities and regions of tomorrow with future economic growth and prosperity. So this is all important because having faster and more reliable internet service will be a competitive advantage for a growing number of industries. And if you look, it also supports the fastest types of growing of jobs. So if you look at this slide, 2 of the top occupations that should see huge increases in the number of jobs with high-paying salaries from 2021 until 2031, 2 of them are in the tech field. One, data science, with, if you can tell, is a 36% increase growth rate is expected between 2021 and 2031, with an median annual salary of $100,000. And then the information security analyst positions with a 35% increase in that decade, with a median salary of $102,600,000. Pretty impressive. This all leads to our discussion today in terms of the internet and why it's so important. One of the characteristics of a global internet hub is having a growing and tech-savvy workforce. And we need to do that by the growth of industries is changing so much the face of the future workforce, and we need a well-versed tech skills and students in digital literacy. Workforce training for Virginia Tech's talent pipeline needs to start long before someone gets into college. That's where we'll talk about CodeVA which is bringing computer science education to Virginia's K through 12 schools and develops programs to train teachers. And there's another program that we're highlighting today called GO TEC, which stands for Great Opportunities in Technology and Engineering Careers. And it's expanding its workforce training programs to additional schools and school districts across Virginia, including those in the Richmond and Hampton Roads regions. These programs are critical steps in expanding highly skilled tech talent pipelines throughout Virginia. It's important to note that in 2016, the Virginia legislature passed a law that made Virginia the first state in the country to include computer science as a mandatory part of curriculum in all public schools. CodeVA, which was founded in 2013, is a state-supported program that supports school districts in building infrastructure needed to teach K through 12 computer science literacy. CodeVA works with students, school districts, teachers, parents, communities, and policymakers to bring computer science education to all Virginia students. The organization was founded with the principles of having equitable opportunities and access to computer science literacy for all students in Virginia. The organization offers free professional learning for Virginia public school educators, education professionals, and school districts to implement the computer sciences SOLs. GO TEC is a program that's administered by the Institute for Advanced Learning and Research in Danville, and it builds strategic talent pipelines from K-12 to higher education. It starts in the middle schools, and GO TEC engages students in career connection labs using hands-on learning in high-demand career pathways such as precision machining, welding, IT and cybersecurity, robotics and automation, and mechatronics and advanced materials. These students then continue those skills developments during high school career and technical education programs. A grant from Go Virginia will help push the Go TEC framework into additional schools across Virginia, including in Go Virginia regions number 4, which is Central Virginia, Petersburg, and the Richmond region, and Region 5, which is Hampton Roads. Go TEC started as a pilot program in 2018 in Danville and Pittsylvania County. So with us today are our two speakers, Chris Dovey. Chris is the Executive Director and Chief Policy Advocate for CodeVA. He co-founded the organization with his wife, Rebecca, in 2013. He serves as a member of Virginia STEM's advisory board. And Chris, in a previous life, was a reporter at the Richmond Times-Dispatch, where I was a former reporter and editor as well. So Chris and I go back many years. Also is Julie Brown. Julie serves as Go TEC's interim project director, and she's also the vice president of advanced learning at the Institute of Advanced Learning and Research in Danville. She's responsible for providing talent development programs aligned with economic development interests, which builds the region's STEM capacity and talent pipeline. In addition to leading the Institute's Go TEC initiative, she also oversees the AmeriCorps programs and the Empower systems to increase workforce-based learning opportunities. So just a reminder, if you have any questions, please use the Q&A, the chat function, and we will try to get to them. And now I will turn it over to Chris, and Chris will unmute himself, and he will now talk about CodeVA.
Felt like I needed to do the muted action there. Hi, I'm Chris Dovey. I'm the Executive Director of CodeVA. And first of all, thank you for having us here. And also thank you for this initiative, frankly. I was on an intercity visit a number of years ago to San Diego. And one of the things that struck me at the time was just sort of the general area that they were dealing with as San Diego was very similar in a lot of ways, respects, resources, et cetera, to the Hampton Roads and Richmond area combined. So I've always thought that this is just a darn good idea, particularly after that trip. So this is really neat. So to talk a little bit about us, if you want to go to the next slide. So welcome to the digital dominion. That's where we all live. Virginia is a really important state in terms of computer science education, but also in terms of computer science industry. And we try to illustrate that with this poster that is one of the various resources that we provide for free to classrooms. Next slide. So what is CodeVA? CodeVA is Virginia's Computer Science for All K-12 Leadership Initiative. Computer Science for All is a national movement that really began many years back as CS10K, and even before that as an initiative to increase enrollment at university level in computer science fields. It was an NSF funded initiative that evolved into during the Obama administration, CS for All, but that really took wing under Bush 2 and had a lot going on during that period that was formative to what's happening now. With the launch of CS for All, though, this was this idea that we really ought to and have to be looking at computer science education as literacy. This is basic, foundational, formative literacy. Greg, this might sound familiar to you. The newspaper industry kind of got hit a bit hard by the internet, as you and I know. Computer science really is mass communications. It is the ability to communicate a concept, oftentimes a very abstract and complex communication idea across time and space. And obviously there's an interactive component with computer science, or at least with internet based applications. So it very much is a mass communication skill. And with mass communications and language literacy, that begins in elementary school. And that's what it has to begin at with computer science. In addition to that, with computer science, you are talking about something that oftentimes kids are either on their own, sort of self-select out of, or oftentimes too, the adult mentors in their lives of students will kind of steer certain groups away from technology, STEM, computer science, etc. So starting early with students and giving them the confidence that they need is key, which is why, again, this initiative really moved down to that elementary level. So CodeVA, we are really 4 pillars: research. We have a portfolio of NSF awards, as well as we serve as a major supporting backbone institution on a number of either USED or NSF awards that are with other institutions around the state. We do advocacy. This includes legislative support. CodeVA helped legislators during the 2016 session. There were about 7 bills that were to get rid of, in some cases, foreign language requirements, or to diminish those requirements and replace them wholesale with computer science classes. Really bad idea for a variety of reasons. In particular, at that point, there still are not enough teachers in state to teach computer science as a high school course that every kid is going to have access to. So that is a stretch goal, and it's one that is achievable, and it's one we're aiming at as a state, but not ready. So what we did was worked with them and helped to recraft that legislation into what we now have, which is the Computer Science Standards of Learning for Virginia. We were the first state in the country to have mandatory K-12 computer science standards. They are mandatory K through 8 integrated standards. And then at high school and middle school, there are elective courses that have mandatory standards, but are not mandatory courses yet. And then we also, our educator support, this is really in a lot of ways, the core and backbone of our programs. This is the thing that most teachers in Virginia and educators would be familiar with, and we are statewide, so there are tens of thousands of educators that are very familiar with CodeVA, and these are free to school divisions, and it includes everything from teacher professional development to school district support in being able to stand up computer science programs. And then we also have student programs. These are primarily in the Richmond metro area right now, but it's developing resources that what we hope to do is be able to provide in a very similar way to our training programs for teachers to out of school time resources. So YMCAs, IALR, et cetera, to be able to do summer programs, either full program camps or modules that could be delivered during those camps that are supportive of computer science. Next slide. Uh-oh.
Yeah,
Okay,
there
there
we
we
go.
go.
Yeah.
And why are we doing all of this? Here's why we're doing all of this. Virginia has the highest concentration in the country of computer science jobs. We are number one. Washington, D.C. is number two. Maryland is number four. Let's forget about Washington State. And then you've got states with the highest level of computer science employment. We're number four there. We also, I recently learned this fact. We're number two in terms of deficit of people to fill these jobs. We're right behind California, which I guess when you look at states with highest concentration of employments, Virginia, Washington, D.C., Maryland, there's some familiarity there. Oh, clump it all together. That's the DMV. And we really are very close to California. We're definitely neck and neck with Texas in terms of highest employment levels, which is why we also have that highest deficit level. Next slide. And this is really, again, sort of illustrative of why CodeVA exists. So we all remember back when Amazon announced that it was moving its headquarters here, HQ2. One of the reasons that they indicated to us, and they actually called us in for a meeting with them to tell us this, that they selected HQ2 was because of Virginia's computer science K-12 standards. So they saw K-12 as a key component to their future in Virginia and their future as a company. And that's why they're a major funder nationally of computer science for all, and they are the major funder in Virginia of computer science education through CodeVA. But meanwhile, the state committed this billions of dollars to the tech talent pipeline, and $1 billion investment doubling down graduates coming out of university programs during the next 20 years. Next slide. Problem with that is this is what state spending looks like in Virginia for K-12. So when you look at, it's not just Virginia, obviously, these are all states. So Arkansas, which actually when we started this whole thing, CodeVA started in 2013, Arkansas was one of the other first states to jump into this effort. They only had about 1,300 jobs open and unfilled in that state at that time. Virginia at the time had over 20,000 jobs open and unfilled. And that was, again, back in 2013. Arkansas started pumping money into this issue, and it was intentional money, intelligent money. It was directed through their governor's office to an initiative that is parallel to CodeVA there, CS for Arkansas. And they, at this point, I think their number is up actually to 4.5 million from the state, which then combines with other corporate and foundation money. And that workforce deficit you see there has grown because they've seen increased investment from tech companies coming to Arkansas as a result. Meanwhile, Virginia, we have over 100,000 unfilled and open jobs in computer science, STEM, cybersecurity, and related fields. And Virginia spends $500,000 a year for teacher professional development in computer science through its parallel to CS for Arkansas. We're right there neck and neck, obviously, with Idaho and Iowa in terms of our level of commitment to our K-5 and K-12 students. And you can see Florida, they're 10 million. That is somewhat vacillating money. They're just sort of tossing money at a problem and not spending it in an intelligent or intentional way. So that's good news, I guess, for us as we remain very, not just competitive, but Virginia has really been a forefront leader in computer science K-12 education. We've led on a lot of policy as well as development of resources and training. Next slide. So I guess all of this is to say we kind of put the cart before the horse a little bit with the investment in higher education, because you have to build need before you can expect to fill those positions, or in particular, fill them with new people. And when I say new people, there is a need for diversity in computer science and all STEM fields, and really who populates those fields currently is exactly the profile of a person that you would expect. And we've all heard of tech bros, and that's generally what you see in technology still. And so when you look again, you've got an initial investment of $1 billion. The cost per degree seat is $625,000. over the 20 years, it's still $32,000, and that doesn't even include the tuition that the student is going to be paying to sit in that seat. Meanwhile, that's the one seat is costing as much as we're spending annually, more than we're spending annually on computer science K-12. Next slide. But we are, for computer science lovers here in Virginia, and we are working very hard and we're doing it very efficiently, frankly, even with that low state spending. I should say the good news is our corporate investors in state are really, they're carrying all the water for the most part in terms of supporting the initiative. So we're heavily reliant on the generosity of a lot of the technology giants that you would expect to be involved. Meta, that's Facebook for those of you that don't know, Microsoft, Google, Amazon, etc. Next slide. And this is really what we do. So over 14,000 educators have benefited in some way from CodeVA professional development classes and workshops since 2014. That also includes a lot of curriculum resources that are available to districts and that are being used. We've had teachers participate in CodeVA programs from 99% of Virginia's school divisions. I think there is literally one left that has not yet sent a teacher. Most of our programs are built to provide scale for the district. The idea is not to just train a teacher who then goes back to a classroom to teach computer science. It's to also provide districts with the capacity to train their own teachers, so to put them on a continuing schedule for training. We've also support over 4,000 students through our Eureka Workshop children's programs here in the Richmond metro area. 40% of those students were entirely free. Most of our programs are free for students as well. And about half of those students were of some sort of underserved population, either female or minority. And then what else should I highlight here? Let's move to the next slide. Everybody can look at all the pretty colors there. There's also this program, which is very important. This was something that was supported through an initial investment from Amazon, although it started in Virginia really in it was probably 14 or 15. And actually IALR was a big partner in this, was creating something called the CS Roadmap. We've just added core subject to public schools. It's probably the first we've added in 150 years. And when I say core subject, it's not the first class we've added, obviously, to public schools in 150 years, but it is the first core subject that is a literacy subject. By doing that, we have asked public schools to do something that, again, they've not ever done since the beginning of public education. And they don't just naturally know how to do that. It's not something that they go over just, for a day during their early formative ed classes. And they need help. So this is a planning tool that was developed by CodeVA that incorporates not just CodeVA's resources, but the available resources that in large part are free and no cost to districts to be able to teach this essential literacy. Next slide. And it really is looking at laying a foundation, building capacity to continue and then to sustain that initiative over a long period of time so that it does become part of every child's day. And every school is thinking about it. Actually, they're not thinking about it. That's really the goal, is that this is just something we're doing. And it really certainly should be. Next slide. And then the other thing to know about CodeVA, we already operate across the state of Virginia in physical hubs. We kind of haven't for a while, which is why when we first logged onto this call before everybody was here, I said to Julie, hey, long time no see. IALR down in Danville is one of CodeVA's hub partners. And we have these hubs all over the state of Virginia. Many of them are in state agency partners. So the Region 7, and these regions, by the way, for everybody who's looking at this going, this does not go Virginia regions. These are the state superintendent regions because Virginia is super efficient in having way too many region maps. Which should be a topic for this program on another day. But the Region 8 hub is IALR, Region 6 and 8 is IALR and Roanoke. Higher Education Center, and Region 7 is the Institute for, excuse me, that's ILR, that's Southwest Higher Education Center. Region 2 is Old Dominion University and Chesapeake Public Schools. And Region 1 is and has been historically Chesterfield Public Schools and Richmond Public Schools and CodeVA. Next slide. I won't go into the other regions because we don't care about DC. The other big thing that we're working on right now is the governor's announced, obviously, his initiative. One of his key initiatives during this administration has been his lab schools. They were announced in April of last year at an announcement up in DC area. I shouldn't say DC area, in Northern Virginia. That was at Google's headquarters there, CodeVA and CodeRVA High School. And they are not the same, by the way, everybody. CodeVA is a statewide training program. CodeRVA is a high school, and CodeVA was a co-founder of CodeRVA. But the governor's initiative was looking to create this lab school model in state, and they approached us and asked, what would we do? And we proposed the idea of a STEM and computer science high school training. Well, excuse me, let me rephrase that. It's a computer science lab school network with a training hub as a component of that. And the idea being eventually build that hub network out into the state's regional STEM hub resource network. Something that is also a state initiative. Again, I'm on the state STEM advisory board, and one of our jobs is to create a STEM hub network for the state. So trying to make two great taste great together. One was a Republican initiative, the other is a Democrat initiative. Together, these things are absolutely essential backbone resources for the state of Virginia. The computer science lab school network becomes basically an educator and researcher partnership, practitioner partnership statewide network. And then that STEM resource network becomes a front door in communities for parents and students and educators and researchers for where is computer science and STEM happening in this region. Next. And again, this is the idea is to combine all of these services and resources and make it into something that ultimately is benefiting a computer science ready community. We want to be able to say to potential investors that, and when I say investors, I mean companies that might be looking to move or to expand what they're doing in Virginia. They want to and need to be able to see that, yes, you do have all the things that I need to be able to support my company as we come here, including education resources and a ready workforce. Next. And again, this would be building on that hub network that already exists for computer science training right now. That network existed for about, I'm trying to think, we had it in place for 5 years before COVID hit us. So this is an established place where teachers know to go for training already. Next slide. I might be done, I hope. Yep, I'll let you go past this one. And this is a video that we have that I don't think we need to show, but I believe, Greg, that you're going to make this slide presentation available. I would encourage anybody that wants to use this. It was created by CodeVA, by the Virginia Lottery, and by the Virginia Tourism Corporation in a partnership to really showcase and spotlight computer science education and industry in Virginia. It is not a spotlight of CodeVA. It lived on the Virginia Department of Education website for a number of years. And it is something that we really do encourage economic development authorities to just take on as their own. It belongs to the Virginia, I don't know, population of Virginia, the citizens of Virginia. There we go. And I think I'm done.
Yes. Yep. Good. Great. That's, Chris, thanks so much. I've got some questions teed up for you, but I've got some questions relating to financing. And there are also some people who have also asked some questions too, which we'll get to after Julie provides her. So Julie, you are now up, and unmute yourself and we will go from there.
Great. Thank you so much, Greg, for this opportunity. I think you're going to hear about some great alignment between Code Virginia and some of the work. And Chris has been a great partner with us over the years as we've looked to build our STEM and CS capacity across Southern Virginia. And so I'm privileged to talk to you a little bit today about GO TEC, which again, as Greg mentioned, stands for Great Opportunities in Technology and Engineering Careers. Our why was we understand that about 18% of the jobs across our region, these are good paying jobs, higher skill than they used to be, are in advanced manufacturing. But when we started talking to a lot of our students, only about 5% are interested in those manufacturing careers. And some of that is just a legacy of culture. Many of our students saw at this point now grandparents that got laid off from jobs, saw a lot of those manufacturing jobs leave the United States, but those manufacturing jobs are coming back in a big way, and they look very different, and the skill set is very different. And we know that we've got great programs in place, but we've got to do a better job exposing students at scale. And so GO TEC is really our opportunity to do that. Next slide. All right. I would say we've gotten a lot of great press and excitement around what we're doing in middle schools, but I want to kind of set the stage to say GO TEC for us really is about creating these strategic talent pathways in industry sectors that we've identified across the Commonwealth for growth. And so you can see some of those sectors there. We started really, again, this is broadly advanced manufacturing and what that looks like. So that's in things like precision machining, welding, IT cybersecurity, robotics and automation, mechatronics, advanced materials. As we've expanded, and you'll hear a little bit more about that, we're adding or looking to add an emphasis or modules in biotech and pharma, precision agriculture, and energy. And so for us, some of these talent pathways really, again, start robustly in middle school. We know we've got to do a better job exposing young people to the opportunities in these career areas. And at the same time, while we're creating exposure opportunities, also thinking about how we drive skill development down to 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And so again, we have GO TEC Career Connection Labs in middle schools. I'm going to show you some pictures here in a minute. The idea with the talent pathway is then we make sure we think about, okay, what's that next step that students will take? Are there dual enrollment opportunities? Are there going to be non-credit certificate or credential training opportunities provided through the high schools? Right now in Virginia, 9th and 10th grade is a gap in our career and technical education programs. And we've got some pilot projects happening through some school divisions. We don't want to get young people all excited in middle school and then say, all right, come back to us when you're in 11th grade and we're going to pick back up with some of the skill development opportunities. So again, making sure in each of these strategic industry areas that students are very aware of the academic and skill preparedness pathway that they will follow throughout high school, then into a community college or a higher education center for additional credentialing and degrees, and then the opportunity to continue that education and training either through a hub program, which would be an add-on in a very specific area. And we've identified some hubs for that across the Southern Virginia broadly region, but then also into 4-year degrees around computer science, engineering. So again, how do we articulate these seamless pathways to students in these strategic areas? Next slide. We are very fortunate. Go Virginia has been a tremendous partner. This effort started back in 2018, prior to the pandemic, where we piloted these middle school labs and started developing again these pathways in each of the areas. So again, we started with 3 middle school labs. This gives you an idea of some of the areas of focus. This is really a resource that we provide. It's a GO TEC resource that then is used within VDOE approved courses at the middle school. And so we have a week-long module on electrical engineering, manufacturing engineering, mechanical engineering, automation, robotics, precision machining. Again, you can see some of these there. So we're putting high-end equipment in these middle school classrooms. And these are automated welding machines, CNC machines, laser engraver machines, 3D printers, Dobot robotic arms. They're programming using Raspberry Pis, metrology equipment, and again, the list goes on. But the idea is that in each of these weeks, we introduce a piece of technology and talk to them about the new skill sets that are going to be required, the jobs that are going to be available, how much they pay, the education and training provided. And we also link students with resources within the region. Where are these companies? Who could they go work for once they graduate? And again, that's the focus at that middle school level. The idea behind GO TEC and the brilliance really is around standardizing the experience across a larger geographic footprint. And so again, this is a collaborative, iterative process where we engage teachers as subject matter experts in how they work with middle school students, but also our industry partners to inform the curricula and the competency mapping, and then our higher education and community college partners to understand, are we helping to develop the appropriate skill set and creating relevance starting at middle school that will really help our students be more successful in these post-secondary training programs. Next slide. All right. The great thing, and I'm going to show you a map here in a minute to talk about kind of really the rapid expansion of GO TEC. There's lots of data, but this works, right? We know I'm a product of, I'll say the 80s, right? If anybody can remember industrial arts, that got taken out of schools. And I think really GO TEC is this epiphany, and it's not rocket science, that we really have got to kind of think about how do we put that back into the middle schools to, again, create this exposure and relevant experiences that then create that pipeline of students into some of these career and technical education and post-secondary programs. What we've been able to do, and one of the asides that we're finding, is our network of GO TEC partners has really created for us a platform to rapidly integrate technology and respond to the ever-evolving needs of employers. So you've got two examples of this here. One is a non-destructive testing unit. Non-destructive testing is very important to the defense community, and it's a different skill set. Again, something we're not really exposing our students to in the K-12 system. The other that you'll see there is a vertical ag unit. I know in the Richmond area, Plenty has announced there. We have a company called Aero Farms. Again, food and beverage manufacturing. We all like to eat, right? So that is still, at the end of the day, manufacturing that's driven by technology, and is a very different technology than many of our students may have been exposed to. I show you these examples to say within 6 months, 6 to 8 months, we were able to procure equipment, beta test it in the lab, and then deploy it to school systems in our partner network with curriculum and activity resources. And again, so as the next thing, and again, if we look at the evolution of AI or whatever that next technology may be, we now have the infrastructure and platform to integrate that technology very rapidly into our public school system. Next slide. So again, what you'll see here, we started in 2018, and I'm going to confuse you. Chris showed you the superintendent regions. These are Go Virginia regions. And right. So, yeah, I know, right? If you look at the very center of the map towards the bottom, that little mini Virginia, that's Go Virginia Region 3. And you'll see much of the activity, those little power buttons each represent a middle school where we have a GO TEC presence, and all that equipment that you saw is in a middle school lab. We are right now in 19 divisions, 25 middle schools across the Commonwealth. The T that you see there, those are training labs. So Chris and I need to talk. We've kind of created this infrastructure to really support teacher professional development. As you can imagine, a middle school teacher walking into the room with all of that equipment, can be fairly daunting. And so with so much support from Go Virginia, our K-12 divisions, private philanthropy, we've been able to expand this program across the Commonwealth into Region 1, which is in Southwest Virginia, Region 3, maintaining, and again, we've got a couple places to continue scale there. Region 4, which is the Central Virginia, kind of Richmond extended area, and then Region 5 to the Greater Hampton Roads region. Go Tech really for us is also an economic development opportunity. Every prospect that comes to our region, we show them the training lab. We then take them to a middle school and show them these 11-year-olds that are having experience with automated welding machines, CNC machines. They're programming those machines. They're understanding, even before algebra, is talking to them about, again, Cartesian coordinates. We got sixth graders that understand three-dimensional space and how to orient a printer and the programming that goes along with that. So again, we've seen benefit in job creation because companies have told us, you sold us on where our future workforce is coming from, because we show them their future workers and what we're training them to do in the middle school and showing them the opportunity they have to inform that process. So right now, each year, we've got about 3,500 middle school students that are in these Go Tech training labs. We are also quantifying how many graduates. We had companies that came and told us in our region, it's great that you're producing 20 welders out of this school or 40 machinists, but I need 300. So again, the beauty of this standardization across a large geography, we now talk about the 300 welders that we're producing every year. We talk to them about how many machinists that we're producing. So again, this opportunity of big funnel. Companies don't care about these county lines. They don't care about that state line into North Carolina. They just want to know where their workers are coming from. The beauty of also doing this at scale in April, we're going to host our first VEX competition, because every student across this footprint has access to the same equipment, same technology. So how do we put them on teams and say, okay, your team isn't necessarily going to be the students in your classroom. You're going to be put on a team with a student that's 8 counties away. So how do you work in that environment? So again, these critical 21st century skills that we know are important, this Go Tech framework has created an opportunity for us to really expose students to these opportunities. But again, at scale, we're aggregating these numbers to really talk to prospective business and industry about what we're doing as far as producing graduates with the right skill set for when their company locates in the Commonwealth. Next slide. We have just received an additional $3.4 million grant that our, again, localities and private philanthropy are matching to expand Go Tech to these other regions of the state. Again, for us, it's understanding what is the critical infrastructure. So that training lab is important. Not all the teachers can come to Danville, Virginia. So how do we put that training lab in closer proximity where those teachers are? That training lab and having staff, a training coordinator there, really serves as a 911 call center for teachers that can't get that 3D printer to work or whatever that problem is. So making sure we support teachers with this change and putting this technology in their classroom. We've also identified in-region coordinating entities across the state. They are very different organizations. So in Region 1, it's the United Way of Southwest Virginia. In Region 4, it's CCAM. And in Region 5, it's Old Dominion University. 2 of our staff are actually at Brooks Crossing today because that's where the training lab is going to be to serve the Greater Hampton Roads region. Again, we will be standing up those 3 additional training labs in addition to the one at the Institute in Danville, Virginia. We are creating a sustainability plan for Go Tech. We're also making sure that we have appropriate data mapping and can track individual student outcomes. This is understanding about how do you get a 11-year-old to really understand certain career pathways. How do you get them excited about those pathways? And then are they pursuing the appropriate education and training that's necessary to get into those high skill, high wage jobs that we're working so hard to bring to the Commonwealth of Virginia. And again, part of this is making sure we integrate Go Tech as a talent pathways initiative with our regional economic development organizations, making sure they're aware and they're promoting this opportunity as they're working with existing and prospective business and industry. Next slide. I think that's it for me.
Great. That's what I love about all this is that both you and CodeVA are both complementary programs. They're not competing, you're complementary in terms of educating tomorrow's workforce, and that's great. We do have a number of questions, so let me go into the question and start rolling down some of these things.
Greg, before you do, could
sure.
I just say, I think what you just said is really important. These are complementary programs, and every program in state really should be. We have 1.3 million students in K-12. There's more than enough heads to go around that need opportunity. And so we're really only able to serve right now at our current capacities, a fraction of those students. And that's not necessarily in our capacity to serve, but it's definitely in our capacity in terms of what how these programs are made available to students and how they're coordinated. So I wanted to say that because I thought that was almost a question. So,
right. So the first question is from Beth from Chamber RVA. Beth wants to know, is that workforce gap current or does it look into the future?
Is this the one that I referenced in my slide? Yeah. So in 2013, when we started, as I said, it was about a 20,000 person gap at any given time. I think it was 29,000 people gap at any given time, or jobs gap, sorry. And in 2022, at the height of the pandemic, July, there was a presentation given to the CTE advisory board to the State Department of Education that showed there were 70,000 open unfilled computer science jobs at a time when we had literally hundreds of thousands of people being unemployed in other sectors. There were about 7,000 jobs in CS fields that were lost, but those people obviously were fairly quickly finding or getting out of the workforce, one of the two new positions that they could move to because there was such a gap. So these are real numbers. Also, again, it's sort of it's an amorphous thing because we're all trying to get our heads around this. There's been legislative efforts as well as the STEM board has made some efforts to work with, and VEDP is working on this as well, us working with them, trying to figure out just how big this gap is. So you've got cybersecurity, you've got computer science, you've got data science, you've got all other STEM fields, engineering. My dad was an aerospace engineer at NASA Langley. You would say he's an aerospace engineer. He's an engineer, right? No, he was a computer scientist. And he did engineering using computer science, but he would consider himself, by about 1985, his primary role was programming and modeling and simulation to design an airplane wing that was going to subspace and back. So those were real numbers, but they were also fuzzy because we're not quite sure. There's a big Venn diagram that needs to be done.
Right. So what are some of the major limiting factors that are restricting our ability to train enough workers?
I think, I put something in the comments, but Julie, do you want to take this first?
Certainly. I'll say we always think about we are program rich, participant poor. As we've diversified our economy, students have lots of options, and then throw in the option to be a social media influencer and some of those other things. So again, I think it's how we create a better pipeline and are really communicating to parents about opportunities and to young people about some of these opportunities to reinforce, I think, what Chris said. I know we're looking at some of this too, is as we develop the courses or align the Go Tech resource with existing VDOE courses, we don't have enough tech endorsed teachers at the middle school. And so that's something that we're trying to take a look at as we kind of think about this. Is the experience we want students to have, but we need a tech endorsed teacher. In a lot of communities across the state, they don't have one. So I think for Virginia, one of the big challenges is going to be around teachers, giving them the support, professional development, all the things that they need, because if we're not successful in that space, we're not going to be successful in placing young people, people into jobs.
Yeah, and to I guess to tag on to that, one of the issues there, so we have a training program to provide teachers with foundational training. It really is sort of it's not just if you build it, they will come. You have to market it, and you have to let people know the why of it. And that needs to come from the top. And then what we're doing right now is CodeVA to address some of that need. As we do have that basic training, we also have now added more recently a praxis supported praxis training. And praxis is a pathway to licensure endorsement for teachers, to add new endorsements, in this case, the computer science praxis. And that's an entirely free program again, but it takes a little bit of time, obviously. More importantly, and I made comment around this in the chat as well, is our university systems have not yet really added what we need to support teachers coming out and going into public education or private education for that matter to teach computer science. And that includes licensure for computer science high school or middle school teacher, but also just includes integrating and incorporating the computer science standards into pre-service teacher professional development. And what this also has caused and created is it's a glut situation. So the universities are trying to expand their programs. They're right now doing a lot to basically, they're pillaging. They're looking for anybody that's qualified to be a professor. Many people are very talented that they're grabbing. I know some of them, a friend of mine who was a professor at JSARG here in Richmond, who was snatched up by VCU and is now like the backbone of VCU's engineering school computer science program. But when you do that, now the community colleges have less capacity to provide for dual enrollment classes. And then you go, well, we can just have the high school teacher can be certified to do the dual enrollment. No, they have to have a master's in that field, not in education. So they have to be licensed to teach computer science and to have a master's or greater in computer science field in order to be able to do that dual enrollment course, is what I meant there. So there's a lot that has to be put in place to support and sustain, but it can be done, and there's a path to get there. But again, it comes back sort of what Julie was saying there is we got to market this. We've got to tell people. If you build it and tell them, they will come.
And Chris, you touched on a question that Peggy Lane had relating to the community colleges in terms of they are very much supporting of the tech talent pipeline. And that also kind of will segue to the next month in April, we will talk about what the colleges are doing on our webinars. But thanks for that. I think we have time for one last question here, and the question relates to how does the Eastern Shore fit into this model? Julie, do you want Julie or Chris? You want to take that?
Sure. I would say for GO TEC, we do have, I think that's kind of Region 6 grabs part of the shore and Region 5. So really it's I think we've got a partner at Eastern Shore Community College who we're having some conversation with, but those K-12 divisions kind of reach out to us and say, hey, this is something that we're interested in. Again, that's something that we can support if those K-12 divisions want to talk to us. We host groups all the time to kind of show them this. Now they want to travel to Danville, they can stop a little closer and see some of the middle schools and get an idea. So again, we're trying to make sure we put that infrastructure in place because we have a lot of school divisions that are interested in this. They know it's the right thing to do. We've got to start exposing students to these career opportunities younger, and middle school is not early enough. We need to be doing this in elementary school. So what does that look like? So absolutely, the shore can participate in this. Just need a interested K-12 division representative to reach out and contact us.
And
Sure.
I would add to that, you have obviously you've got Wallops out there. They're taking a great deal of interest in their community. One of the lab school proposals that I think has already been approved is out that direction. CodeVA does what it can to get training out there. It is a difficult area to get to. One of the best things we could do is to build a large teleportation device that is used for educators to attend training on this side of things. But in lieu of that, the training is available. A lot of what we provide training wise is also virtual. So teachers could be doing virtual professional development, doesn't require a teleportation device that way. And again, it's really the marketing, letting those teachers know that it's there, letting districts know that there is a requirement for teaching computer science. That remains, believe it or not, still a huge learning gap. Is actually, it's an administrator learning gap, that this is a requirement in our public schools now.
Good. Thank you, Chris and Julie. Appreciate it. I just want to note in the chat function, Kristen Hott from CodeVA. Chris has been working while you were there, and she points out that you can go to www.codevirginia.org/educators, and there are CodeVA's free professional learning and computer science resources for Virginia educators, and you can reach out to Kristen as well. So thank you to both Chris and to Julie. I appreciate it. Let me just tell you some of the things that are coming up next. They're happening very briefly, and to let you know what's going on. Again, if you want to see this, you can go to our YouTube channel. That's www.youtube.com/@RVA757connects and the numeral 6. And this webinar will be posted on our YouTube channel here sometime this afternoon or first thing tomorrow morning. Also, again, if you want to learn more about the Global Internet Hub, you can go to globalinternethub.org. You can find out information there as well. Next month, as Peggy kind of alluded to, we're going to be talking about what colleges are doing in Virginia, both four-year colleges and community colleges, in terms of their computer science and related fields, and helping to expand this workforce and tech talent pipelines industries here in Virginia. So that's going to be a month from today on Wednesday, April the 5th, again from noon to 5. There'll be something, we'll start sending those out here in the next week or so. We'll have a good lineup of different colleges and community colleges that will be participating in the webinar. Again, if you can help us out, you follow us, let us know if you suggest topics, invite us to your business organizations, whatever might be the case. But also thank you again to Chris from CodeVA and to Julie from GO TEC. We appreciate you both being on here today. Thank you everyone for joining us today, and we hope to see you next month on Wednesday, April the 5th. Have a great afternoon.